the reasons. That is to say, state violence in the first instance. The LAPD, as you know more than most, has a justifiable reputation for violence. As I tell the story, there was a perception in the LAPD ranks that they were understaffed. For example, even today, I think that the force constitutes about 9,000 or so. Back in the day, it was 7,000 or so. By way of comparison, New York City, with a larger population but a smaller area to patrol, had about 37,000 officers or more in the ranks. And therefore, the LAPD felt that they had to engage in a kind of draconian deterrence. That is to say, to make every encounter that particularly Black people had with the force to be memorable, so that the word would be circulated that you do not want to cross the line into, quote, illegality, unquote, because you may not make it back to the land of the living. I think that that was a major trigger for picking up the gun. But of course, there are other issues as well. Mass incarceration, for example, the crisis of everyday living, which in many ways is a lineal descendant of being descended from an enslaved population and then being subjected to a horrific Jim Crow. The reasons were countless. Now, with regard to eras, as you may have gathered from this book, I apply some of my reasoning and historical excavations of slavery going back to the 1500s to this current story that deals with the period mostly from the 1960s and 1970s going forward to the present day. In other words, as I tell the story, the United States has been a settler colonial regime that helps to explicate the genocide inflicted upon the indigenous population. That is to say that the United States in its history is not far distant from what is now Zimbabwe, what is now Namibia, where you had the first genocide of the 20th century, 1904 to 1908, visited upon the Herero and Nama people, not far distant from Algeria, which had a French settler population leading to a bloody conflict culminating in independence in 1962, not to mention the giants of settler colonialism, speaking of South Africa and Kenya, and of course,